The criminal trial for Sean Combs is set to begin tomorrow in New York with jury selection. Now, Combs has pleaded not guilty to multiple charges, including sex trafficking, and has denied all civil allegations against him. Now, sources say Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, will be a central witness during the trial. Now, sources also tell CNN other witnesses expected to testify include his former sexual partners, a business associate, and a male sex worker. Joining me now to discuss is trial attorney and former senior assistant District Attorney Otto Ekpo. Thank you for being here. Can you just put into perspective how significant this case is?
This is a very, very significant case. I like to akin this is the Gen Z's, I guess, version of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Wow.
I was in 5th grade whenever the O.J. verdict came out, and I remember my teacher stopping trial, or stopping the court, stopping our courtroom just for us to figure out what's going on. We got to figure out what's happening with this verdict. What's different in this particular case than the O.J. Simpson trial is that this is not going to be live streamed.
Yeah.
You know, in federal court, you can't live stream any type of court at all. You can't live stream any trials. And so your audience is really going to have to focus on how CNN is kind of letting them know how the trial is progressing. But it's extremely significant, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to come down to the courtroom sketches, to what you hear from maybe witnesses choose to speak afterwards. We'll see. Look, as a prosecutor, when you approach a high-profile case like this, how is preparation different from one that might be a little bit more out of the spotlight?
They have to prepare because they cannot make any mistakes.
Yeah.
This elite all-women prosecution team, they've got to make sure that all their ducks in a row. This is either a make your career type of case or this is a break your career type of case. So they're going to be prepared. I think they've been working on this case for at least a year now. They are prepared with their evidence. They're prepared with their witnesses. They've probably spoken to their witnesses at least 2 to 3 times to make sure that every I is dotted and every T has been crossed.
And, you know, you talked about the prosecution team, high-profile case, high-profile defendant,
right.
High-profile defense attorneys, too, with resumes that include defending Martin Shkreli, you know, the Pharma Bro, Young Thug, and more. On the defense side of things, does that experience actually make a difference in a case like this? And if so, how?
I think it does.
Yeah.
What the defense has done recently is bringing in a pinch hitter by the name of Brian Steele. You just mentioned the Young Thug trial. He was the lead defense attorney there. What the defense is trying to do is throw wrenches in anything that the prosecution is going to lay out. Any evidence they have, they want to try and misconstrue, throw out red herrings, throw out red flags, so the jurors aren't actually focused on the real evidence. And so their experience is actually very, very important. And so if they can get one juror to kind of look the other way and not look at this case the way the prosecution wants it to be, that's very beneficial for the defense's side.
And, you know, obviously the nature of this case is a very sensitive one, especially for the alleged victims here as well. And not all of the witnesses coming forward have chosen to use their names as part of their testimony. But Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former girlfriend, is choosing to testify under her own name. What is the significance of that, I guess, from a prosecutorial standpoint, but also just in general? What is the significance of that?
She's ready to have her day in court.
Yeah.
She's ready to let everybody know, not just Diddy, but to let the world know what happened to her. When you are uncloaking that veil and when you are actually presenting your true self in front of jurors, in front of the world, it means that you mean business. And that's great for the prosecution. When you have a victim, when you have a survivor that's decided, I'm actually going to come out here and I'm going to tell you my name, it's because I'm ready for whatever the defense is going to show.
Yeah.
So.
Otto Ekpo, really appreciate you coming in. Thanks for the time and perspective.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
The criminal trial for Sean Diddy Combs is set to begin Monday in New York. And while we don't know the names of everyone who will be called to testify, sources tell CNN former sexual partners of Combs are among them. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges, including sex trafficking, and has denied all civil allegations against him. CNN's Elizabeth Wagmeister has more.
We are getting some new details on the criminal trial of Sean Diddy Combs, which is set to begin on Monday with jury selection. Now, while the witness list has not been made public by the court, sources have given me an indication of some of the individuals that we may see take the stand during this trial. Cassie Ventura, who is the ex-girlfriend of Sean Combs and the musician, she is going to be the star witness in this case. Now, Cassie Ventura is the only alleged victim who has decided to testify under her real name, but the judge has allowed other alleged victims to testify under pseudonyms so that their identity will be protected. I hear that in addition to Cassie Ventura, the government has 3 other key witnesses. So a total of 4 key witnesses who will take the stand to discuss their allegations against Sean Combs. Now, of course, there will also be corroborating witnesses who take the stand either to corroborate some of those other key witnesses or to add some relevant information. I'm hearing that one of those supporting witnesses will be a friend of Cassie Ventura's. I am hearing that another one of those witnesses will be a male sex worker, and I hear from a source that it's possible that additional male sex workers may also take the stand. Now, at the center of the government's case in the indictment, they said are these so-called freak-offs, which the government has described essentially as drug-fueled sex parties where Combs and others allegedly forced women into sex acts, oftentimes with male sex workers. So that could possibly give some indication of the testimony that we may hear from that sex worker. Now, this trial is anticipated to run up to 2 months. Sean Combs faces 5 different charges, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. And remember, Combs is also facing more than 60 civil suits. Those civil suits are completely separate from this criminal case, but I do hear that many of the civil accusers who have already come forward with civil claims against Combs will be testifying in this trial. Back to you.
All right, Elizabeth Wagmeister, thank you so much. Joining me right now to talk more about all of this, CNN legal analyst Joey Jackson. Joey, great to see you.
Good to see you, Frederica.
So how might this witness testimony potentially impact the overall criminal case?
Yeah, it will certainly be huge. I mean, to be clear, this is going to be a very salacious trial if the indictment has anything to do with it, and it does, right? An indictment is merely an accusation which charges a code of conduct. And here, the indictment lays out very clearly what Mr. Combs was using his business enterprise for a number of years. And what was that? According to prosecutors, it was ultimately to really allow him to exploit his celebrity status and his fact that he was the head of this organization to gratify his sexual needs, according to prosecutors. And he did it by having those freak-off parties where there would be people who were transported across state lines, either coerced to do it or coercion or use of fraud, or engaging in prostitution to do it. And you'll hear about guns, you'll hear about drugs, you'll hear about payments of various types that were made to people. You hear about rent payments, the withholding of payments, really orchestrating their careers and using coercion in various other forms. And so that'll be the narrative of the prosecution. And so to end to your question, the witnesses who testify as to that narrative will be very compelling. The reality from the defense will be whether they're credible and whether their testimony should carry the day. As we look there, his ex-girlfriend, Cassie, we know there was a civil lawsuit settled with them, and they apparently went out for quite some time, and there are 4 witnesses who have these other allegations. So the issue, Frederica, will be is with these witnesses, will they have enough and do enough to establish what the prosecution's theory is, and that is that he should be convicted of these various crimes.
And that Cassie Ventura will use her own name as she's appearing as the star witness. Her testimony will also accompany the video of her being pursued by the Combs that so many have seen already well before this trial. So how will the defense try to combat that? I know you had mentioned already the defense will go after credibility, but how else and what else might we see from the defense?
I think they're going to come out swinging. I think this is about coercion versus consent. And the fact that a person might lead a lifestyle that other people don't find satisfactory or that may believe is unsavory is not the issue. The issue is not how you live your life. The issue is not the amount of sexual partners you have or what you do for your sexual gratification with respect to parties. The issue is whether there was a violation of law. And there will be the defense hammering away on the notion that, listen, and it'll start even before that, Frederica, I should say, with jury selection, in order to test the notion of whether people are there to evaluate how people should live their sex lives or whether they're there to evaluate criminality. And so the defense will say, ignore the shiny objects, ignore the issues about drug abuse, et cetera, ignore the fact that you have a person here who might be deeply flawed morally. Did he commit a crime? Was there coercion to the extent that the prosecution will say we're engaged in, or were these consensual relationships run amok by people who have hidden agendas, people who mean him harm, and people who are otherwise there to testify because he's a bad actor and a bad person? That's not the issue. Is he a criminal? So they'll be swinging on both sides. It'll be a lot of salacious evidence and information. And it's not only the witnesses, Frederica. There's going to be certainly electronic evidence. I think the jury is going to see an awful lot as they sit there visually in terms of what he was doing, in terms of what these parties were all about, and in terms of any physical type of abuse that he engaged in. You mentioned one of them, and that's that surveillance where you see him and Cassie, him doing not such nice things to her.
All right. Joey Jackson, thank you so much.